Hello YouTube, how are you today? You ready to talk some books? Let's get into my August wrap up. Here we go! Hello YouTube, welcome back to Stagey Bookish. My name is Olivia and welcome to my first YouTube wrap up. This is really exciting. I did my first TBR at the start of the month. I'm now doing my first wrap up towards the end of the month. How exciting is this? This is really cool. I had a really good reading month. I read, was it 7 or 8? I read 8 books throughout August. I did have a really good reading month star ratings wise, and today I'm going to share with you just some of the books that I read this month. Some of them I don't have physical copies of, so please bear with me while I talk about them and tell you all about them. But yes, we are going to go, I think, certainly when I watch wrap-up videos, I like it when people go from the book they star rated the lowest star up into the highest star, so I think I'm going to start with that, if that's okay. Alright, so let's get straight into it, because like I said, I've got a lot of books to talk about. Starting off with my first, probably the first adult thriller I have read in the while. I gave it 3 stars, and that is The Chain by Adrian McKinsey. Now, when I did my TBR, I remember saying about this sounds like it's some fucked up shit. And it was some fucked up shit. So the idea is that, not like the Fleetwood Mac song, but it's, if I remind you of the blurb, your phone rings, a stranger has kidnapped your child. To free them, you must abduct someone else's child. Your child will be released when your victim's parents kidnap another child. If any of these things don't happen, your child will be killed. You are now part of the chain. So it follows a mother and daughter pairing who are initially brought into the chain by some others, kind of what they then have to go through and what they learn about themselves as a family, and kind of particularly with the mother character, the lengths they will go to for their family. One thing I did think when I was reading this is this would make a sensational film. I could totally see some of the sequences in here being the best kind of film sequence you could possibly ever imagine. Totally liked it. I gave it a 3 star, not because it was bad, but I thought it was just good. I kind of, be it that I've watched all the murder mystery TV shows you can ever think of when I was young and at my nan's, I guessed some of the stuff that was coming. I didn't guess some of the other stuff. So it was good for me. It was certainly at the high end of a 3, more towards a 4. I think the more I delve into this genre, possibly the higher it will get. But this, I would even though it's only a 3 star, don't see that as bad. I highly recommend this. It's edge of your seat, it's dramatic, it's tense. It's once you pick this up, you are not going to put this down. But yes, so The Chain was my first read of this month. Okay, so that was my only 3 star book this month, which is really, really good. So let's go straight into the 4 stars and talk about 2 reads in particular that struck me for very different reasons. So the first one of the books I read that struck me for a very different reason, it was actually an arc of a book called Roll With It by Jamie Sumner. Let me show you the front cover if you can see it there. This is out at the start of October in the UK and I think September in the United States. This focuses around the story of a young girl called Ellie who suffers from cerebral palsy, so is kind of a wheelchair user, and that kind of really affects kind of her day-to-day life. She is very confident, she's very loud, she's very proud, she doesn't like being in a wheelchair but kind of accepts it, and she makes the best of everything she's got with the loving support of her family, her friends, in particular her mom, who is an absolute inspiration to her, and she loves baking as well, so that's kind of why there's a pie on the cover. Her world is turned upside down when her grandfather becomes very, very ill, and her mum kind of completely up sticks to move to live with her grandfather and her grandmother to make sure her grandfather's okay and her grandmother's not taking on too much because they are both quite elderly. But for Ellie, this means a brand new school, brand new people who just look at her and see her chair, and you know, everything she faces and combats with that. I really love this. I gave it a 4 star. It is so good at the moment to see such amazing representation in YA for such a various kind of range of abilities, disabilities, be they physical, mental. Other than this, I think the only book I've ever read that has a main character with cerebral palsy is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer, and that, if you haven't read it, get it, because that's another badass female character with CP. And you know, having this represented, one of my best friends in the entire world has cerebral palsy, so the fact that she can now access this genre and kind of see herself in this is the best kind of thing. It is a middle grade book, so I'd probably recommend it to say, if UK, say kind of high primaries, maybe low secondary schools, middle grade for the United States. I think it's pitched at around aged 8 to 10, and it is a really wonderful, easy read. So yes, that was a really good one. I really enjoyed that. Another 4-star from this month, and a lot of people were telling me that I should have done this a lot sooner, is that I finally read Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This was my first read of the month, and particularly thanks to the lovely Garen over Goblet of Fiction, who now follows me on Instagram, and I'm so honoured because I love him so much. I love you, Garen. He's a massive Rainbow Rowell fan. I think from his videos I kind of got the taste. I was like, I should read this. This is very good. Centres around two sisters, Kath and Ren, who are fan fiction writers for a TV series in their world about a character called Simon Snow and his kind of best friend, enemy, love interest, Baz. So they have been writing this fan fiction for this series since they were very young, but this book is set when they make the decision to go to college. And you have Kath, who very much wants to keep up with, no one knows it's them that writes the fan fiction, by the way, but Kath really is adamant about keeping up with writing the stories and posting the stories because, you know, she's got a massive following, whereas Ren is very much about the college lifestyle. Do we really need that anymore? Let's learn about college, let's learn about boys. Maybe they're growing apart and interested in different things, and it's basically Kath is the centre of the story, where she's going through this and not sure whether to hold on to her past and what she's faithful to, whether she wants to go out and learn new things. Her and Ren drift apart a lot in this novel. You know, they're twins and always together, but then they're going out into the world, and it just really is the most heartfelt novel because you can relate to Kath so much, particularly kind of from the point of view of someone who's a fan of a book series. I hear that, I can totally hear that. But you relate to her and her struggles so much. I think particularly for me, because I work with just below college age students, I can see a lot of the students I work with in that and kind of trying to learn about new things and explore. This story, I gave it 4 stars. What I also like about this story is this book was so successful for Rainbow Rowell. It's actually sprung that Carry On and the soon-to-be released Wayward Son, Rainbow Rowell has actually turned the fan fiction in Fangirl into a book and a series all on its own. So it's kind of like there's a story within a story, and it's a story about the story. It's all very meta. But this now, 4 stars, it's my first Rainbow Rowell. It just makes me absolutely desperate to now pick up Carry On and Wayward Son, which I think is out end of September, early October, to kind of see what happens with this and where it goes. But yes, Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, 4 stars. Okay, next up we continue into the kind of 4.5 star kind of territory, and one of, if not one of the most powerful pieces of fiction I have ever read. Now, if I tell you, Rose Interrupted by Patrice Lawrence. Now, I've read some works of Patrice Lawrence before, but it was back in, I think it was February or March this year. Angie Thomas, the writer of The Hate You Give and On the Come Up, and just generally literary genius, did a talk in my hometown. I got to go and hear her speak, and oh, she was iconic. She was so wonderful. But I actually got to ask her a question, and I said, what UK writers, what writers are your go-to writers? Who are the people you think our young people should be reading? Patrice Lawrence, as far as UK young adult fiction, was the first on our list. This is Patrice Lawrence's newest release. It only came out in July, but I was, based on the synopsis of this, I was desperate to read it. So you meet Rose, who is our 17-year-old and is our main character, and her 13-year-old brother Rudder have not, when we start the story, have not long escaped, I think is probably the most appropriate word, from a very strict religious cult in what they were brought up in. They live with their mum, who also kind of helped them escape, while their dad is still very much a member of this cult. And it really is, the focus is their story on how they struggle to adapt to the modern world, because, you know, they have been completely closed off. If you think about it kind of from a teenage perspective today, no phones, no internet, no TV, a certain way of thinking, a certain way of being, your role is this in society and not this. So they are kind of coming into this tech savvy world, and they both very much have different ways of coping with it. You have Rose, who's, you know, dressing now how she wants, is interested in boys and things that girls and boys do together, and kind of her role as kind of a young female in society and what that would mean for her. There is also then Rudder, who is 13 years old, who basically has lived in this kind of structure and way of thinking all his life, and he's now presented with this world with all these different options, different things, good things, bad things, like he can't stand Rose's boyfriend, and doesn't think he should be with her, doesn't think he should be with his sister, and you know, he is desperate to just be with his dad and get back. But on the surface is one story, but when you dig and dig and dig, this is so profound and so powerful. There are so many underlying themes here. There is obviously that kind of, you know, living in that kind of environment where you're dictated in the way you think and the way you dress and the way you are. There is the element of sexting and kind of, you know, this kind of thing that it's okay to post semi-naked pictures of female online. There is kind of the importance of books is also a very underlying theme, and probably actually one of the most heartbreaking themes when it comes to Rudder, the younger brother. This was, and the way I have described this to my friends who now I've encouraged to pick it up, is a punch in the guts, take your breath away, make you not know what to think, what overwhelming stunner of a book. It is that good, and you are captivated, you are shocked, you are captivated, you are saddened, it makes you feel broken at times what these two kids have had to go through and what their mom is thus trying to do to support them to get through. But it really is one of the most stunning things I've ever read. If you've never picked up a Patrice Lawrence book, please, oh please, oh please, pick this up. Trust me, you will never read anything with such power and such poise and such elegance. And if you have read Patrice Lawrence before, pick this up and then go and read all her other books. Can I recommend Orange Boy? Look it up as a starting point, but this is a must read and is definitely going to be up there challenging for one of my favourite books of the entire year of 2019. Okay, we are now into our top echelon of the month. So my second kind of highest rated book, my second favourite reading month, was actually a complete surprise to me. You will know in my TBR I mentioned that I'm part of some book group reading challenges that I do every month that really motivates me to read, and for one of the groups this month, one of the criteria was to read a book about bees. Now I was like, I don't know. So Google is a wonderful thing, Goodreads is a wonderful thing, and I came across this one that was recommended to me that was kind of YA, dystopian, sci-fi, 190 pages, and I thought actually for if I'm trying to read a lot this month, that's exactly what I kind of want. And the name of this book is The Beekeeper by Moby Warren. That's the cover because I got it as an ebook. The Beekeeper by Moby Warren. I literally downloaded it. I was like, 190 pages, okay, it's YA, I'll knock that out in a day. It literally was one of the most surprising and stunning reads of the month because I absolutely loved it. Literally, I'm going to read you the synopsis. Could probably read you my review as well, which is just like, oh my god. But I'm going to read you the synopsis, give you an idea about the story. So, the year is 2036. Honeybees are nearly extinct. The world's crops are disappearing and a young boy's life hangs in the balance. When Melissa Bui's origami opens a time portal to ancient Crete and connects her to a young athlete named Amathea, she has a chance to save both bees and boy. But she may risk blinking out of existence like the quarks her scientist father studies. You've got dystopian, you've got sci-fi, you've got links to kind of ancient Greece and Greek mythology, you've got the role of women and what's expected of them, you've got nature, it is really a book for everything. And I think considering, so much is in the news at the moment about kind of different parts around the world, but everything's going on down in the Amazon, is very much in the news at the moment. It makes you think. It makes you think about what a world would be like without bees, and kind of it makes you, as much as annoying as they are, and I don't like them when they come buzzing around me because I've got to think about books, but it makes you actually think about and reflect on kind of the importance of nature to our world. It is an easy read, it is a stunning read, it is a captivating read, it is a 5-star read. I think please correct me, I don't think I'm wrong on this, that it is Moby Warren's first venture into the YA world, possibly her debut. If this is her debut, I will read anything she writes, because it was so... How many times am I going to use the word captivating in this wrap-up? It was captivating, it was magical, it was attention-grabbing, it was beautiful, and particularly her descriptions of nature and the bees and kind of the importance of that is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. So yeah, if you want a really short, easy, end of summer, going into fall kind of read, this is the one for you. Beekeeper by Moby Warren. Vibes. And my top rated book this month is a slight little cheat, because actually it's 3 books in one. So I was recommended by the wonderful Reagan over at Peruse Project. She has extolled the virtues of a series called... It's called The Keeper of the Lost Cities series by Shannon Messenger. I've had the books on my floor for a while to try and pick up, and your girl did it this month. So bearing in mind, Reagan has read these one a month for a while. I've just come off a month's summer vacation. I'm now back at work, so I've had a lot of time on my hands. So this month, in this series of, there's 7 books out. Book 8 is out in November, and book 9 has just been announced for either 2020 or 2021. I read the first book, Keeper of the Lost Cities, which I gave 4 stars to. The second book was Keeper of the Lost Cities Exile, which I gave 4.5 stars to. And the third book in the series is Keeper of the Lost Cities Everblaze, which I gave 5 stars to. This is every book is getting better as I read it. But if we hold the first one, just so, because I can't really tell you about books 2 and 3 because it'll spoil what happens in book 1. So we have a main character in this called Sophie, who has lived all her life on the American West Coast, specifically in, I believe it's San Francisco, San Diego. American West Coast. But since she had an accident when she was 5 years old, she has been able to hear people's thoughts and never understood why. She's confided in her parents, you know, she's been looked after, they've kind of tried to protect her. She essentially has been this ultimate child prodigy. It is one day when her teacher takes her out on a class trip to the local Natural History Museum that she comes across a young man, and all we learn about him to start with is that he has the most beautiful blue eyes. And I was like, I know this is a middle grade series, but I'm sold. And actually it turns out that not only can Sophie hear the voices of everyone around her, so can he. His name is Fitz, and he whisks Sophie away with the revelation that actually she's not human, she's an elf. And she's a telepath, an elf that's a telepath that can read minds. He whisks her away to the hidden elven world, and from there begins the most amazing adventure of Sophie discovering who she is, discovering so many things that she's been told in her life that are wrong, discovering that she has these telepathy powers that actually, you know, she's part of this whole world that she's never known about at 12 years old. She meets Fitz's family. The world of characters that Shannon Messenger has built in this series is utterly phenomenal. You know, in 3 books, each book kind of develops the world, and you meet more characters, and so for example, Sophie goes and she meets Fitz's family, and then there's kind of some other, she goes to school, there's a magical school, Harry Potter fans, there's a magical school. You know, you meet her school friends, you meet people on the council of the elven world who, you know, are not sure why a human is now living amongst them. And these characters, you grow to know and love these characters so much. It is just one of those, I don't think I've been invested in a series like this since Harry Potter, and that's a very strong statement. I have read the first 3, you know, the kind of issues that Sophie faces in the first movie, just show you. So in Exile, this beautiful creature on the cover, and it's not what you may think it is, kind of is the central to the story. Everblaze gets dramatic again. There are elves, there are goblins, there are dwarves, there are rebels, there are demons, there are people who think that you think they're one thing and actually they're liars, and there's history and there's politics and there's world building. Do you get the idea that I love this series? But yes, and what I particularly like about this kind of, you know, we're looking at potentially a 9-book series, if not longer. In these 3 books, there is a kind of if you've read these books and you know what happens at the end of this one, you understand what I mean. That the ending of this one is kind of the end of one massive step in Sophie's story. And from book 4 onwards, and potentially, I don't know for how long, there's going to be the next step in Sophie's story. But I can't tell you what that step is because it'll spoil it. But these 3 beautifully set up the world. this magical world that, quite frankly, I'd quite like to go and visit because it sounds amazing. And I'd like to go and work at this magical school. I bet their libraries, everything. Oh, it makes me so happy, all the magical libraries. This is such a must pick up. It is listed as middle grade, and I think it's listed as in the age 10 to 12 category. For UK, anyone who works in the UK, I'm 34, I picked these up and I fell in love with these. I would recommend these if you want these for younger people, kind of, probably say year 7, year 8, lower secondary school, possibly higher year 6. But this is just the most wonderful series to get lost in. I cannot recommend it enough. You will be seeing a lot more of this series on my channel, because once I finish my current read, that is book 4 in this series is my next read. So yes, although we got 4, 4.5 and 5 stars, these were my favourite reads of. See, this is one of the wonders of filming one weekend and editing another, when you find out that one of your clips actually didn't record properly. So here is the wrap. 1 week later, here is the wrap up for my August wrap up. Really good reading month, really pleased with everything. Going into September, again, lots of goals, lots of arcs coming out this month that I'm dying to get my hands on. Loki, Where Mischief Lies by Mackenzie Lee is high on my list. American Royals by Catherine McGee is high on my list. I still want to do Spin the Dawn because I didn't do that last month, and I'd really like to do it this month because I've heard some really good things about it. And also, which apparently is similar to Spin the Dawn, A Dress for the Wicked by Autumn Krauss. That intrigues me highly as well. So thank you for watching my August wrap up. Thank you for all your input and comments on my channel. I appreciate and love them all so much. This has been Olivia, this has been Stagey Bookish, and I will see you in the next video, folks. Bye bye.